Hello and welcome to Amit's Tech Sessions. My name is Amit and I'm a software architect. In this session, I will talk about how you can implement observability for the applications running on ECS. And along with that, I will also cover some patterns and best practices around observability on ECS. So let's start. Let's understand first what is observability. As the definition on the slide says, observability is the ability and mechanism to measure the state of an application or system by inspecting its own output. So if I simplify this for you, let's assume that you are running a microservice on a platform. So the observability is a mechanism to measure that state and health of that specific microservice. In Wikipedia, the definition is defined differently. Wikipedia says, in distributed systems, observability is the ability to collect data about programs' execution, modules, and internal states, and the communication among other components. In recent years, observability has become much more important as organizations have moved to cloud or are moving to cloud. And these cloud-native environments are complex, and the potential root causes for a failure or anomaly is much more difficult to find out in the cloud environments. There are three key pillars of observability: logs, metrics, and traces. Logs are configured by your application to be stored in a file. Applications are written in a way that they produce logs. And logs are important for observability because they provide context and state of your application. Metrics are the representation of health of your application or infrastructure or a service. For example, let's say you're building an API. So metrics would tell you how much data your API is processing per second, per minute, etc. And now the traces. So traces are also referred as distributed traces. A distributed trace tracks a specific request which is coming to your application or API. For example, your API might have 3 microservices communicating with each other to form a result for the end user. Now, a trace tracks all this internal communication and workflow around it. Now let's talk about logging in ECS. In general, in AWS, standard service for logging is Amazon CloudWatch. Amazon CloudWatch monitors your AWS resources and the applications which you run on AWS in real time. So let's understand from this diagram up on the screen. We have a couple of microservices running inside the ECS cluster. These microservices are implemented by services in ECS. One service in ECS can contain multiple tasks or instances of a task. Now, all the logs generated from these microservices or the tasks are fed to CloudWatch by adding a simple configuration in this service. However, ECS applications can also send logs to the other services such as S3, OpenSearch, or Kinesis Firehose by using AWS Firelens. Firelens is a container log router for Amazon ECS and AWS Fargate, which gives you extensibility to use the breadth of services at AWS or third-party solutions for log analytics and storage. Firelens works with FluentD and FluentBit. So now let's talk about metrics in ECS observability. So to collect the metrics from microservices running on ECS, again, AWS CloudWatch is the preferred option. It collects the standard metrics from your instances running inside ECS cluster. However, CloudWatch Container Insights is a feature in CloudWatch which is used by many organizations and is vastly popular for collecting metrics from containers running in an ECS cluster. You can use CloudWatch Container Insights to collect, aggregate, and summarize metrics and logs from your containerized applications and microservices. It collects the instance level metrics as well as CPU, network, memory usage, etc. And then you can visualize all this data on the CloudWatch dashboards. There are a couple other options to monitor your application running on ECS. The first one is Amazon Managed Grafana. Amazon Managed Grafana is a scalable and secure service which runs Grafana. It supports monitoring of ECS and other AWS native services as well as some third-party services as well. And the second option here is Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus. Amazon Managed Service for Prometheus is Prometheus compatible service for metrics to securely monitor container-based applications. So you can leverage one of these service as well to collect metrics and monitor your ECS-based application. Now let's talk about traces in ECS observability. AWS XRay is standard service for distributed tracing in AWS. AWS XRay collects the traces from containerized application on ECS. XRay is most suitable for distributed applications or microservices-based application. XRay is a great choice to analyze and debug distributed applications. To configure XRay for containers running in ECS, you can run an XRay daemon as a sidecar container in the ECS task. So the real application container, which is your business container, will send the traces to this sidecar container, and the XRay daemon, which is running on that sidecar container, it pushes the traces to the XRay service. And that's how your tracing workflow can be created for ECS-based applications. Now, I will talk about some of the best practices for observability on ECS. So the first one is cost-effective and clean logging. So you should implement the logs, what your application requires. You should not add any unnecessary logging to your application, which can be costly as well as not clean. So the second best practice is you leverage CloudWatch for logging and metrics for your ECS application. You can also choose a third-party solution for observability. However, AWS native option is CloudWatch. The third best practice here is use XRay for tracing, because XRay allows you to effectively debug your microservices in a distributed production environment. And the fourth best practice here is that you need to set alarms and alerts based on various different thresholds to effectively detect issues in your application which is running on ECS. That's all I have for this video. I hope this was useful. If you would like to connect with me on LinkedIn or Medium, there are QR codes up on the screen. Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.